tonight, we have one final presentation, and that's a report from the city manager on the strategic operating plan for the Asheville Police Department. Gary Jackson.
All right, to kick this off, when you think of major change, what do you think of? How do we feel about change? A couple of adjectives: stressful, fearful, frustrating, confusing, unsettling, doubtful, anxious, maybe hopeful, impatient, energized, motivated. Well, we're going through a significant change process, one that we're very hopeful for the Asheville Police Department. In May 2014, following a robust employee participation process, the police department established a 3-year strategic operating plan. That came to this council, was reported here, there's been public communication about that, and so there was a lot of fanfare about this three-year strategic operating plan. But make no mistake about it, it calls for major change. Major leadership change, process changes, and different ways of doing business. Since that time, internal teams of police employees have been gearing up to carry out the plan. What's involved in that? Well, yesterday, City Council's Public Safety Committee heard how many teams have been formed? 6 teams have been formed, and they're formed around these particular planning areas: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Their work will go on through the course of this plan and bring about the plan changes that have been identified in each of these areas. And I won't go back through all those areas, nor will I repeat the quarterly report that was given in public safety yesterday. But as the committee might be able to speak to today, significant progress is being made in all of those areas. And we'll make that report available to you, and each subsequent report will be made available to you. So where are we today? The strategic operating plan is a navigation tool, but we need to stay on course. To ensure that we stay on course and progress, positive change, and organizational development takes place, we need to give it our full support. In my opinion, the highest level of management support that we can give it is to take 2 steps right now. And I want to go through what those 2 steps are with you today. Before I go into those 2 steps, I just want to underscore, why are we doing this? And that is because we continue to place the highest importance upon our police department. We care about each and every employee of the police department, sworn, non-sworn, and the valuable service that they provide for us every day, 24 hours a day. So we want to be successful. And we want everybody to feel that way about their job. The first action that we're taking is to enlist Fire Chief Scott Burnett to serve as the facilitator of the cultural and organizational changes to be facilitated under the plan. As you know, Scott was recognized at a state and national level for his department's success in undertaking a similar process in recent years. Moving forward, Scott will be facilitating an internal team that will include resources. By internal, I mean internal to the city, a multidisciplinary management team, as well as employees throughout the police department. That is the most important thing to emphasize here, is that his facilitation is to help the police department's change effort. Scott's facilitation in this endeavor will allow Chief Anderson and his police team to stay focused on the day-to-day operations of keeping us safe while the strategic operating plan moves forward. The second major action we are now taking is to enlist a management consulting firm. What role will the management consulting firm take? Principally 3 roles. First, to perform diagnostics. This will be a third party to provide us with an objective review of of these 6 areas and to give us that independent view as the teams begin working on this of what we should consider and what would be best practices in the field. Second, provide additional avenues to receive employee input. An additional avenue to receive employee input. When this plan was adopted, and it was just back in May, we all knew this was going to be a dynamic planning tool, not a document to be put on a shelf. So it's important that we keep lines of communication open at all times, and I think the third party checking those lines of communication will help us get a better picture of what we might hear. You'll hear more tonight, but this will be an opportunity for us to hear from everyone in the department in a more scientific way. Finally, their role will be to examine organizational culture. Stress and the changes of stress have different impacts upon people. And people within an organization react to a variety of different stimuli in their environment, the leadership, their co-workers, the processes and procedures in which they work. Sometimes that environment is very stressful and challenging in and of itself. What impact do those stresses place upon the men and women of the police department? And how do we need to recognize the influences those have upon them? And when we put plans together, are they reflective of the unique and challenging work that they have to do and the constraints that they have by law, by civil service, and by the procedures that are placed that we force them to operate in? As I said, change is challenging, but we're investing in that change, and we're going to stay the course. Our process over the next 7 to 10 days will finalize the scope of work for the management consultant. Scott Burnett has accepted this assignment, and I appreciate Scott being here tonight. And he and Chief Anderson, human resources people, our communication people, our finance and budget people, are already working with him, and we're going to move forward with that facilitation process and get him up to speed. Additionally, the consultants, national consultants in this area with proven track records are being contacted by my office as we speak. We are putting together the scope of services, we're determining what the fee structure will be. Our intent is to determine who's ready to hit the ground running and has that proven expertise, and we would hope to have them engaged within 30 days. We anticipate the engagement will take approximately 120 days, but we'll let you know. The last thing we want to do is put an arbitrary deadline on this very important process. We need the tools to be successful, and as long as we feel that we're getting valuable, objective input, we will continue to rely upon that. And of course, within the scope of financial authorization to be granted. So with that, I'm open to any council questions, and we'll open it up for any direction you'd like to take with this discussion tonight.
Just a couple of comments. First of all, I hope that the public and all the people tuned into this understand that challenges that our police force faces relate to all these various points that Gary's highlighted that are being addressed. There's a lot of focus on the performance of the chief here. It is much more complex than that. Whether one person is doing the job. These challenges we face have existed for a long time. They need to be dealt with systematically in this sort of fashion. Secondly, there are many people that ask members of the city council to intervene directly and do something about this. I think it's important for everybody to appreciate that the role of city council is to hire and supervise the city manager. It is not our job. We don't hire the police chief. We don't fire the police chief. We don't directly supervise the police chief. We don't have access to the personnel file of the police chief. I believe, Gary has briefed me one-on-one in some detail about these steps. I believe that this is the best course for our city government, our community to be on. And I have full faith and confidence in Gary Jackson and where this is going now. So I encourage the community to get behind this effort now and support its way forward. Thank you.
And I would echo that. I really appreciate Gary, you coming to council tonight and making this presentation. these are things that have been in the works anyway, and it's become apparent that we need to talk about it more openly and not just assume everyone understands what's going on here. So I appreciate the opportunity to share with the public the process involved here and the team that we've got in place with both chiefs here to make sure that the strategic operating plan is implemented, that it's successful, and with the help of an outside evaluator, shall we say. I consult people which roll their eyes for that, but my sense of this outside auditor or evaluator will be to help us look at our processes or any lack thereof, and the way that the department's being run, any type of management issues, and then also everything that is involved in running a police department, help make recommendations, because we do need, I think we do need help from a third party to help us look at, everyone does it at some point, help us look at our processes and see what we're doing. So I'm excited about this aggressive move to prioritize some issues that we already knew were out there. We already knew morale was an issue. We already knew we had issues with our procedures and accountability, and I think that the strategic operating plan is helping prioritize changes in those areas. And I would just also add that I greatly respect the men and women of our department, and I don't ever want to lose sight of the bottom line. And the bottom line is the safety of our community. People have to be out there keeping our community safe, and they don't need to be distracted with internal issues within the department. And sometimes I think we take that for granted because we are a safe community, we aren't dealing with a crisis on a day-to-day basis, and we have a little bit of a luxury to stop and spend a lot of time talking about the internal issues within the police department. But I'd like to refocus us on what it is that we're all about, and that's providing a service to this community to keep our citizens safe. And with that, I would hope that the men and women of our department also share in our goal of making this a success, and we'll work with both chiefs to make sure that this is a success. And in turn, I know this council is eager to work with the department to make sure it's a success, that no one wants to see it not be anything but a success. So I was just going to is anyone else?
Yeah, I would add that being a member of the Public Safety Committee, I've been really impressed going through this process, getting this together, seeing the care that was taken, the opportunity for both input from all the employees of the department and the public to put this together. And now it's only been in operation 1 quarter, 3 months. We've just started into this plan. So I would urge the public to be patient because big change takes some time. And I would also, I've been quite outspoken about this, but frankly, I think that the press has been wildly irresponsible in recent months, reporting allegations as if they were the truth, instead of reporting clearly that there are two sides to a story. The press has been rehashing old information that's already been sorted out. We've had internal investigations and have cleared questions in the past. There are issues, absolutely there are issues that must be addressed, but I think it's quite unfair to frame it as if every allegation is true. And I hope going forward, now, an interesting thing I saw just this week, to take a little aside, Ben Bradley died this week, the legendary editor of the Washington Post. And I saw a comment by him. He delivered a speech in 1997, actually, after he retired from the Post. And he said that after all his years in the media, what he had learned was that there was an increasing level of spinning going on, an increasing level of lies reported as the truth. And that his view at that point was he no longer trusted the first reports of any news story because he knew that too many people were spinning too much, and that he was much more content to wait a while and see what really shook out afterwards. So I hope people will be patient with this process and see that the city is absolutely committed to making things right for everyone in the department. Thank you.
I'm sure Joel Burgess is so glad he's covering council again now. Welcome back.
Everyone's been very eloquent with where we are now, and I think that it's important to follow it. I don't want to take anything away from what you said, because I think it's very important. But the Public Safety Committee yesterday had the opportunity to see in depth where we are and update on the strategic plan. And, you know, I know there's a person that's not involved with it. If you're sitting there, it sounds like there's a lot of wheels turning, but you're not seeing much happening with that, or what the other spin. But the reality is, there's a lot of good things going on. I think the most important part is that not only the safety of the community is critical to all of us, we're very, very committed to it. The amount of money that we budget each year for public safety is incredible. It's the largest portion of our budget. We feel like that's the most important thing we, as a government, deliver. And there's some pride in what we do here. Frankly, the officers that we have working are some of the finest people I know. And unfortunately, they kind of get bloody nose in this deal unfairly, because there's issues here that have been, as Cecil said, brought up in the press, but probably spun too much. Quite frankly, we've got a very effective police department. We've got, it's easy to say that we have a huge increase in percentage numbers in crime. That may only be 4 or 5 incidents, because we're dealing with small numbers. Asheville still remains one of the safest small cities in the state. And frankly, for the amount of visitation and the amount of growth we experience during the course of the day, the people that don't live here that come to visit, do business, and utilize our services here, it's a phenomenal amount of people for the size 45, and our officers do a great job. It's incredible. The camaraderie, the esprit de corps, that was very much evidence when Officer Bingham, which has been almost a year now, when he died, everybody came together, and there was this feeling that we do a great job, and we're proud of it. I know as a council member and public safety member, I'm very proud of what the officers do, the quality individuals we have. And it is just really important that this community gets behind these good people, and instead of finding fault in areas of concern, recognizing we're making these big changes. The chief of staff is taking time out of his busy day and busy work to implement much the same thing that we did a few years ago with Asheville Fire and Rescue. And that's a department that is, I don't think they're rivaled anywhere, and I don't think this police department will be either in this process. The opportunity we have with this strategic plan, we're going to be looking at pay scale, to bring people in to give us a professional what we need to do to make that better. Considering taking on vehicles for the officers, so something should have been done a long time ago, and we've not been financially in difficulty with the capital improvement plan we would have. There are things that are going to make the officers' lives better. Things like, for instance, radar guns. It's really difficult to keep guns certified when they're changing those radar guns from one vehicle to another at shift changes. We can't do that. We can't operate like that. We are willing to make the commitment to make sure these people have great resources, great opportunities to do an even better job, and we're totally committed to it.
There's so much eloquence at this table tonight. So I imagine I'll fall short here, but in addition to what's been said, I saw some folks out there in the audience earlier showing me the 44, saying, hey, there's a bunch of officers out here who have some really serious concerns. And there's some other numbers in my head as well, and one of them is 85,000, which is the people in the city of Asheville. And another number is the 216 people who are employed by the Asheville Police Department and who protect and serve our community every day. The only way that we get from here to that better place is if this entire department comes together, avoids the rivalries, and cooperates towards a unified course. We've got a path charted before us that Scott Burnett is going to be helping us stay on, that this third party is going to be helping us stay on and improve. But the fact is that if we can do it, we are going to get to that better place. And we are going to be able to come together as a department and as a community. I respect all all of y'all's service to Asheville, and it's my hope that we can get past this conflict into a better place.
So I think that the community needs to understand that this is not going to be a process that goes away in a month. I believe I speak for all of City Council that we understand the seriousness of this. We understand how important our police department is and morale is. And that in a month, we're not going to forget about this. We're going to be asking for accountability. We're going to be asking for progress. And I believe all council is committed to that. So, what I want to say.
You're good. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you for the presentation. And that concludes the presentation portion of the evening. Is Sergeant Vance.
I have 3 people here, probably will take 10 minutes to keep it free, so I've got 3 board members.
Okay, yeah, can you three people raise your hand? Thank you. All right.
Mayor Meinhammer, from the Vice Mayor, members of the council, my name is Rondell Lance. I'm the president of the Federal Order Police College here in Asheville. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight and speak. To allow this board for council, to allow people to come before you and speak, but it's very important to the citizens of Asheville. I don't take it lightly or take for granted the opportunity to come before you tonight and speak, so I thank you. As council and citizens know, the last few weeks the media has covered issues and problems of the Asheville Police Department. I come before you tonight to share that the FOP supports the Asheville Police Department. We also support the men and women of the Asheville Police Department as they work to enhance and improve the working conditions. There are issues that need to be looked into and evaluations of the conditions and recent events need to be made. As the chief has said, there is issues at the police department. The FOP agrees that there are some problems and needs as a department that cause for examination. With that said, the FOP believes there are issues that can be resolved with the efforts and collaboration of the administration, the employees, as well as the guidance of Human Resources and Mr. Jackson. With all the press in the past weeks, the FOP feels confident that the issues brought to the public and the council is no way related to racial causes and that race plays no role in the concerns and issues. In my 26.5 years as a police officer with the city, I have witnessed disagreements with each administration that I worked for, and oftentimes that has been played out in the media. The following is what the FOP would like to see take place with the following guidelines and procedures to take place where it's allowed and feasible. We came up with these 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I was surprised this morning to wake up and see in the paper that very similar desire that the city has, the council has, that the FOP has. But I went over this is what we came up through 3 days ago. 1, that Human Resources meet with the men and women of the department to gather their concerns and issues, and also meet with the administration. Number 2, a report is compiled with the media, with the main concerns, and the report be given to Mr. Jackson to evaluate. Number 3, a report is then disseminated to the council, to the Civil Service Board, to the Public Safety Committee. And number 4, a committee is formed with members from officers chosen by officers, administration, and human resource to address solutions and remedies. And those recommendations are put in place with the results being forwarded to the above group. And after learning today, we're very glad to see Chief Burnett being involved. I talked to the Firefighters Union and their respect for Chief Burnett, the work that he does, and I respect him there. And so we're very thankful he's a first to be part of this. We do not feel that an outside group needs to be employed to solve the problems or evaluate the concerns. The FOP feels that the city and the men and women of the department and the administration are very bright, intelligent, and professional, and do the best evaluation and solution for the concerns. The job of being a police officer is very demanding and stressful, with each call, each decision being evaluated and questioned not only by the department, but by the city, by the courts, by the public, and by the media. Officers work 365 days a year and 24 hours a day and are never in a position to be slack or to be complacent with their duties. Those who choose the task of being in law enforcement should have an environment where they are given the tools to better their ability and to work, and an atmosphere of support and credibility and accountability as they protect and serve the community. As officers being held to a high standard, that standard should be paramount in each area of their assignments. The citizens of Asheville and those that visit Asheville deserve a competent police department that is well equipped, professional, and that is respectful. It is the purpose and hope of the FOP that we can work together with staff, administration, and each other and produce a department that the men and women can be proud to be part of, as well as the citizens can be proud to have an accountable and productive department as they live and raise their families and grow as individuals, and we grow as a community. The FOP stands ready to be part of the solution and to fulfill our plea to support the men and women of law enforcement in Asheville and Butler. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to share our thoughts with you tonight, and to remind us all that when we enhance and better the police department, we're also enhancing and making the community better. So thank you all for your time.
I really appreciate you coming tonight and making remarks, and I'm hopeful you have your list that you wanted to bring from the FOP. You can get that to Gary.
Right.
Thank you. Next, I have John Midget. And Mr. Midget, I don't know your officer title, so I'm sorry.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. It's a great opportunity to be in this beautiful and historical building to talk to you tonight. My title is I'm Executive Director of the North Carolina Police Benevolent Association. We represent the largest law enforcement association in the state of North Carolina. I've had this business way too long, 35 years. I have not been able to talk all my children into becoming law enforcement, and I come from a family of law enforcement who are very dedicated, and we well understand the importance of the men and women that we serve and the citizens that we protect. Today I'm here really for two reasons. One is to let you know that we are continuing to ask for a proper and legitimate investigation of matters before you that have come out in various forms, media and otherwise. And two, that we are here to speak on behalf of and to represent the members of our association who have also reported to us already acts of retaliation for their coming out and speaking out of matters of public concern. The dispute before the city of Asheville raises serious implications for public safety in Asheville. The officers are being obstructed from properly performing their sworn duties under state law, and retaliatory hostile workplace environment has been created in that process, and it has gone actually from the department and is starting to come outside of the department. A comprehensive investigation is critically necessary for multiple reasons, and we all need to have a determination as to whether or not there is an ongoing obstruction of justice. Now, ideally, and we have asked for this in a written letter we sent to you yesterday and in previous communication, we would like to see the State Bureau of Investigation or another entity of the criminal justice system to properly investigate this, because as Sergeant Lance stated too, law enforcement officers are held to a different standard. Not they're not better than, but they're certainly different. And that standard involves their license or certification, if you will, as law enforcement officers. This is through the Standards and Training Commission. Some of the allegations that have been made would affect an investigation by that commission on whether these officers could perform their duties without a proper investigation of these matters. Now, ideally, we'd like that type of investigation, but we have heard here what you've said tonight. I've had a very favorable conversation with the mayor. We played phone tag for most of the week, but we did get a conversation in. We are cautiously optimistic in that going for an outside entity is very important. The question we have for you is if that outside entity, one, develops information that's outside of their scope or purview of authority, i.e. a criminal matter that needs further investigation, would that entity be able to report that through a proper chain so that could be properly investigated? And two, is it possible for either a PDA representatives or members of our association to be part of this process? Because we do have information we had gathered. We would gather stuff for the purpose of a civil matter, but from a criminal standpoint, that is outside of our purview, more within yours, and we would like to be in a process to be able to provide that information to you in a proper investigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, I have Martin Ramsey.
Members of council, I'm here today to discuss the possibility of Asheville instituting a municipal minimum wage. Across the country, cities.
Folks that have signed up to speak, if there's anyone else wishing to speak, this is the time. Oh, okay, hold on.
You go ahead, because I've already spoken once, so go ahead.
I'll keep it short and sweet.
Just state your name, please.
Tracy DeBrold. Basically on this whole police thing, I just want to bring up $1 maybe suggestion. We were at one extreme and now we're back going to the far other, and it probably makes things a lot easier now. Plus the chief is the same thing as the sheriff in my eyes, the head person in charge of all those dealing with. Well, the only major difference is your sheriff has to turn around and face the same battle each one of y'all do every election time as far as being in front of the public eye, the service and stuff they do. So why not have your chief as an elected position, when the people vote on it? That's one less thing on y'all's plate. That's all I have to say. Thank you, God bless.
Just a quick comment. My name is Ed Carroll, and I just want to say I've been disappointed as a resident of Asheville and how things have been handled with the police department. And I'm here to support the 44 and probably the many officers that were afraid to sign that for fear of retaliation. So that's all. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, thank you, Councilman. The police, they are a friend of mine, church is a friend of mine. I've got a background of quite a bit of time around the sheriff department. I understand the complications that they go through. I've rode with them many, many hours, thousands of hours, plenty of them that knows me well. I'm here to support the 44. I'm here to support them all. If one man can die in the line of duty, and one man can die from the fire department in the line of duty, and they have parades, and they have all kinds of accolades, they have politicians coming out from everywhere to support them. I think the 44 deserve the same thing. They're living. One dead person doesn't take the place of 44 people that are living on the job, facing what they're having to face every day that they live. They have families, and they're supporting our families. They're there for us. And for us to sit here and amaze 44, let me tell you something. There's lots of things around the sheriff department, police department, that's never told. Their lives are destroyed in many ways. Divorces, splits, children, all kinds of problems. But you don't hear that aired out in the public. They're suffering a great deal. We need to honor the living. The dead is a testimony of what we should be doing today. The dead can't do anything, but these 44 people can. We need to stand up for them too. We need to have a parade. We need to have a parade. Let's honor the living for one day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, we have a closed session.
It's actually a question to Ms. Curran about Mr. Ramsey's handout that we have here around the North Carolina Justice Center white paper. It's the first time I've seen this, and I don't know, I would love to hear your further opinion on it at a future time, once you've had a little time to digest it, as well as whether there's a feasibility around referenda around this kind of thing.
Okay, I will do that.
Thank you.
Report back.
I move that the Asheville City Council go into closed session for the following reasons. One, to prevent disclosure of information that is privileged and confidential pursuant to the laws of North Carolina or not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statute. The law that makes the information privileged and confidential is NC General Statute 143-318.10.3. The statutory authorization is contained in NC General Statute 143-318.11A1. And two, to consult with an attorney employed by the city about matters with respect to which the attorney-client privilege between the city and its attorney must be preserved. The statutory authorization is contained in NC General Statute 143-318.11A3.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to go into closed session. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We will adjourn from the closed session.